In the mid-1950s, two brothers in Southern California decided to build the cheapest new truck in America. They claimed it would sell for under $1,000. They were wrong about the price, but what they created became one of the strangest pickups ever made. The Powell brothers had a simple plan. Take old parts from junked 1941 Plymouth cars, bolt them together with flat sheet metal, and sell the result as a brand new vehicle. The engine came from Plymouth. The chassis came from Plymouth. Everything mechanical was reconditioned 15-year-old Plymouth components. To keep costs down, they skipped the expensive part of car building. No curved body panels, no fancy stamping dies. Just straight, flat steel sheets welded into a box shape. They added a fiberglass hood and called it the Powell Sport Wagon. The truck looked exactly like what it was, a box on wheels. But the Powell brothers understood something clever. Budget buyers still wanted comfort. So inside, they installed soft foam-filled seats and a small steering wheel. Motor Trend tested one in 1956 and noted the ride felt more like a passenger car than a pickup truck. The seats were surprisingly comfortable. It drove easily. For people used to bare-bones work trucks, this was unusual. The Powell kept practical features too. It had a standard pickup bed at the back. But hidden underneath was something you would not expect. A long metal tube drawer that slid out to hold fishing rods. The spare tire was tucked under the bed instead of hanging off the back. Storage was everywhere, if you knew where to look. The brothers advertised it as having the utility of a Jeep with the comfort of a car. The base price came out to $1,095. Not quite under $1,000, but close. A deluxe model cost $1,195. They sold mostly to California buyers, especially sportsmen who needed something cheap and useful. Production numbers were small. About 1,000 pickups were built in 1955 and 1956. Another 150 station wagons were made. That was it. The problem was simple. The Powell brothers depended entirely on scrap 1941 Plymouth parts. By late 1956, they ran out. No more old engines, no more chassis, no way to build more trucks. The company closed in early 1957. The total number sold was probably around 1,000 vehicles. Today, very few Powells survive. The ones that do are valuable collector's items, not because they were great trucks, but because they were so unusual. Automotive historians sometimes call the Powell Sport Wagon a proto-SUV. It tried to be both a pickup and a comfortable car at the same time. That idea would not become mainstream for another 40 years. The Powell Sport Wagon was a quirky experiment in budget engineering. It proved you could build something new from old parts and make it work. It also proved that without a real supply chain, even a good idea dies fast. The brothers bet everything on 15-year-old junkyard components, and when those dried up, so did their company. What remains is a forgotten footnote in American automotive history, a truck that almost nobody bought, and even fewer people remember. Chevrolet built one of the strangest pickup trucks in American history, and almost nobody wanted it. The Corvair 95 Rampside had its engine in the back, a cargo bed that was not flat, and a sidewall that folded down into a ramp. It made perfect sense on paper. In showrooms, it was a disaster. The Rampside came from the Corvair family. Like the Corvair car, it had an air-cooled flat-six engine mounted over the rear wheels. This rear-engine design let Chevrolet build a very short truck. The wheelbase was only 95 inches, which is where the name came from. For comparison, the Corvair sedan had a 108-inch wheelbase. The truck engine made 80 horsepower and was strengthened to carry about 3/4 of a ton. Chevrolet offered two versions. The load side had a normal tailgate. The ramp side had the special feature. On the right side of the bed, the wall folded down, flat to the ground. It became a ramp. The idea was simple. Instead of lifting heavy cargo over the tailgate, you could roll it up the side. Lawnmowers, barrels, machinery, just push it up the ramp. Chevrolet even added a rubber strip on the ramp edge to protect it when it touched the curb. The cargo bed was long, about 105 inches, but it was not flat all the way. The engine sat in the back under the floor. To clear it, the rear half of the bed had a raised hump, so you had a pickup bed that was partly flat, then stepped up over the engine. It worked, but it looked odd and limited how you could pack cargo. Chevrolet hoped the Corvair 95 trucks would compete with small European imports. In 1961, they built over 13,000 of them. About 80% were Rampsides. The other 20% were loadsides. Then sales collapsed. In 1962, only 4,471 trucks sold. In 1963, just 2,046 Rampsides found buyers at a price of $2,212 each. By 1964, the number dropped to 851 trucks. Chevrolet killed the entire Corvair truck line in 1965. Why did it fail? The Rampside was clever, but impractical. The side ramp only worked on one side, so you had to position the truck carefully. The raised engine hump in the bed was annoying. The rear engine layout made the truck feel strange to drive for buyers used to front-engine pickups. And American buyers in the 1960s simply did not want a small, weird-looking truck. They wanted big, conventional pickups. Today, surviving Rampsides are rare. Typical prices are around $10,000 for a running example. Collectors like them because they are unusual. The Rampside had independent suspension all around and a compact cab. Chevrolet brochures showed cartoons of people loading lawn mowers via the side ramp, trying to make it look easy and fun. It did not work. The Corvair 95 Rampside is a reminder that clever engineering does not always win. It had real innovations. The side ramp was genuinely useful in some situations. The compact size made it easy to park, but it was too strange for its time. American truck buyers ignored it, and Chevrolet gave up after just 4 years. What remains is a quirky piece of automotive history that almost nobody paid attention to when it mattered. A French pickup truck designed by an Italian stylist became one of the toughest vehicles ever built, and almost no one in the Western world noticed. The Peugeot 404 pickup worked in deserts, jungles, and war zones for nearly 30 years. It outlasted governments. It survived conditions that destroyed Land Rovers and Jeeps, yet it stayed largely invisible to the rest of the world. Peugeot introduced the 404 family car in 1960. The styling came from Pininfarina, the famous Italian design house. Peugeot offered sedans, wagons, coupes, and convertibles. They also offered a pickup. It looked plain, boxy body, simple lines, nothing fancy. But underneath it was built like a tank. The 404 pickup used the same tough underpinnings as the car. Early versions had a 1.6-liter gasoline engine. Later models offered a 1.9-liter diesel. The diesel became especially popular in countries where fuel economy mattered. The truck had a sturdy ladder frame and could carry roughly a ton. Inside, it was basic. Vinyl seats, simple gauges. Nothing broke because there was nothing to break. The 404 pickup was never meant for American suburbs or European highways. Peugeot sold it to farmers, businesses, and government fleets in Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America, places where roads were bad and mechanics were rare. The truck became legendary in the Sahel and Sahara regions. Decades after they were built, old 404 pickups were still running, still hauling cargo, still working. Renault South Africa built the 404 until 1975 and beyond. It was assembled under license in Argentina, Kenya, and other countries. Peugeot kept selling the pickup version until 1988. That is 28 years of production. The sedan stopped in 1975, but the truck kept going. Over 2.8 million 404s of all types were made worldwide. Many of those were pickups. Why did people love this truck? First, it was tough. The ladder frame and simple design absorbed punishment. Second, it was versatile. The bed was fairly large and could carry heavy loads. Third, it just did not quit. Farmers and workers said it would drive and drive and drive. Low maintenance, high reliability. It kept working when everything else failed. The 404 even won races. In the 1960s, a specially prepared 404 won the East African Safari Rally. This was a 7,000-kilometer off-road race through Kenya. Other faster cars broke down. The Peugeot driver simply stayed intact and crossed the finish line first. It proved the 404 could survive extreme stress. Today, old 404 pickups are celebrated by classic car fans who appreciate machines that refuse to die. You can still find them working in Tunisia, Senegal, and other parts of Africa. 3 dusty 404 pickups photographed in Tunisia show trucks that have been running for 40 or 50 years. That is the legacy. Not speed, not luxury, just relentless durability. The Peugeot 404 pickup was ignored by the world because it was never sold in big markets like the United States. It was too slow, too plain, and too basic for Western buyers. But in the places where it mattered, it became essential. It was the truck that would not stop. Governments fell. Borders changed. Wars came and went. The 404 pickups kept running. That is why it belongs on this list. Not because it was famous, but because it was forgotten everywhere except where it was needed most. In the early 1980s, Land Rover updated its famous boxy four-wheel drive trucks and kept building pickups that almost nobody outside the Commonwealth ever saw. These were the last of the old-school Land Rovers. Tough, simple, built for work, and largely ignored by the rest of the world. Land Rover had been making pickup trucks since the 1948 original. By the early 1980s, the old Series 3 was getting outdated. In 1982, Land Rover introduced a heavy-duty variant called the high-capacity pickup. Then, in 1983, they launched a new model called the 110. It had a 110-inch wheelbase and replaced the old Series 3 109. In 1984, they added the smaller 90 model with about a 93-inch wheelbase. These were modernized versions of the classic Land Rover utility truck. The new 90 and 110 pickups kept the rugged character, but added improvements. The biggest change was coil spring suspension all around. Earlier Land Rovers used leaf springs. The new coil springs, influenced by the Range Rover, gave a slightly smoother ride. The trucks still had a sturdy ladder frame underneath. They could still handle serious off-road work and heavy loads. The payload was around half a ton, about 1,000 kilograms. Enough for farming or construction. You could order these pickups in different configurations, a simple 2-door single cab version for basic work, or a 4-door double cab, called the crew cab, to carry more passengers. Under the boxy steel body were a variety of 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder engines. Some were petrol, some were diesel. All were built to run in tough conditions. These trucks were built in Britain and sold mainly in the United Kingdom and Commonwealth countries. They were common on farms, military bases, and anywhere a tough 4-wheel drive pickup was needed. They were not flashy. They did not have creature comforts. They were tools. In 1990, Land Rover renamed the models the Defender 90 and Defender 110. The trucks stayed mostly the same frame, same basic design, just a new name. For fans of classic 4-wheel drives, the 1983 to 1990, Defender 90 and 110 pickups represent the last of the old-style Land Rovers. They combined traditional ruggedness with the coil-sprung suspension that made them slightly more comfortable than earlier models. They were dependable work trucks that carried on the brand's legacy. The problem was visibility. Land Rover sold these pickups mainly in markets that already knew the brand: farmers in the UK, military units in former British colonies, remote stations in Australia. The rest of the world, especially the United States, barely saw them. American buyers wanted big, comfortable pickups. The Land Rover 90 and 110 were small, basic, and utilitarian. They had no appeal to suburban truck buyers. Today, these Defenders are collectible. They represent a specific era when Land Rover still made simple, tough trucks before the brand shifted toward luxury. Prices have climbed as enthusiasts seek out the last classic models. But during the 1980s, they were largely ignored outside their core markets. The Land Rover 90 and 110 pickups were not ignored because they were bad. They were ignored because they were too focused, too British, too basic. They did exactly what they were designed to do, which was work hard in difficult conditions. That was enough for farmers and military units, but not enough to attract attention from the wider world. They stayed local curiosities, dependable, capable, and mostly forgotten.